Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, Tiger Tank 12. How you gonna call me? I don't really care, and welcome back to World of Tanks. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Carro P.88. This is, I think the full name is Carro P.88, the Tier 7 Italian heavy tank. And we did make a video or a preview about this vehicle previously during the test server. Because no one was playing Tier 7 and I just couldn't find a game. I tried several days and I just always plopped out of queue because this tank, well, it's not that special. I can say that much so far without reaching ahead of us. This tank is not very special. Doesn't have the auto reloading function. It is a Tier 7 and it is fully upgraded. We're not taking a look at the stock version of this tank, but we're going to be taking a look at some of the modules that are on this tank and some of the things that maybe make this tank great or are the reason for the downfall or the mediocrity of it. The crew at the moment, I don't think it's at 100%. Because I just retrained them and I just played a couple of games in it. I did free XP my way to this tank because I was saving my experience and I was saving my Italian blueprints that haven't used all the medium tanks. I'm probably going to be using it on the Tier 8 as well and on the Tier 9 and Tier 10. So the P88, it is a very long tank, it is a very low tank as well, as you can see, and it steps into the role of Italian heavy tanks that has quite decent gun depression stats. But before we go into the characteristics, we're going to be comparing this tank to two other vehicles that I thought would be in a good category. Also Tier 7 heavy tanks, the Tiger 1 and the 40 TP, or no, it's not the... Is it the 45 TP? The Czech Tier 7 heavy tank. We're going to take a look at them. No, Polish Tier 7 heavy tank, excuse me. But first, let's take a look at the guns. So the difference that you have right here, the P88 obviously is named after the gun that you have right here. That is the stock gun. The stock gun is the 88-47. And this gun has the same amount of alpha damage as the 90mm gun has. It has less penetration of 40 millimeters less on the standard round and yeah, about 22 millimeters less on the ABCR shell that you're firing with that. But the DPM is a lot better because your rate of fire is a lot better on the 88. And that is one of the questions because your aim time is better, your dispersion is better, your average damage is better, but your reload time is also better, but your penetration rate is worse. So that really mounts the question, should you be using the stock gun on this tank? And we're going to be actually taking a look at two games, and we're going to be taking a look at both the guns, how they're going to be, working out for us, because 400 additional DPM, that's quite a lot. Also, better dispersion values, better aim time. The pen is, well, a lot worse with 38 millimeters less pen. When you are going into a Tier 9 match, you're going to have a really, really bad time. But if you're thinking about it, the stock gun is better in almost every value except for pen. And that makes it quite difficult to actually, get to the top gun. At least you know that the stock gun isn't as horrible as other tanks have stock guns. Or if you haven't unlocked the top gun on the T10 back then. But it's a bit of a shame because 1,600 DPM for a Tier 7 is not very good. We know that the DPM is not very good for all the Italian heavy tanks, but 1,600 is rather low. We do have some equipment on there. We have crew skills to put that up a bit higher. You can see we have about 1,854, but if we actually utilize the other gun, we'd have about 2,000 DPM. So like if I mount this gun right now, you can actually, it's going to be 300 better, so 2,318, so that's quite a step up. Now, before we get into any kind of gameplay, let's compare the statistics and take a look at the general stats of this vehicle. And you can see that green usually means that your tank is better in that category, how Wargaming are, distributing points. And as you can see right here, it's basically a pretty one-sided encounter. Now, all of these vehicles are fully upgraded. The Tiger 1 is in my garage. I don't have any top crew in it yet, but it is in my garage, and you can see that it actually does make quite a bit of a difference. The Carro P.88, it also has, in this configuration, the top gun, not the stock gun. So that's important to look at. But you can see that the average damage on the Tiger 1 and the 45 TP is better than on the Carro P.88. And I think if they would have added up to 280 like Tiger 1, since it's the same kind of caliber, essentially speaking, I think a lot of things would have gone a bit better. 240 alpha, it is the standard alpha of a tier 9 medium, like a 90mm gun for a medium tank, usually. But, speaking about that, you can see that the rate of fire is worse. The gun loading time is worse on the Carro P.88. The gun traverse is a bit better. You do have 8 degrees of gun depression, allowing you to utilize the ridgelines quite competitively, but you can see overall speaking, most of the stats are in favor of the Tiger 1 and the 45 TP. If you look at it, rate of fire is better, the gun loading time is better, the average penetration is better by 1mm, but the dispersion is a lot better, 0.4 versus 0.32, 2.297 thousand or 2,297 DPM versus the 1,854. Oh my god, I can't even talk anymore. But you can see that they do not want you to be playing the Carro P.88 as a sniping tank. You're supposed to be in the thick of it, using the turret armor or the armor that you have in this vehicle to stay hidden and using the gun depression. That's how they want you to play the vehicle. And we're going to take a look at the armor values on this vehicle, and you can see that it just doesn't hold up. It has the least amount of HP if we do deduct the equipment that we have on it, because we do have the equipment which gives us, I think, 10% of additional HP. So yeah, it's usually it would have the least amount of HP, or it has the same amount of HP as the 45 TP, but the 45 TP has turret armor. The hull armor is exactly the same. It's even better than the 45 TP in the side, at least. On the rear, it's actually quite a bit worse with 20mm less. But the turret armor doesn't hold up at all. 100mm, it's just like the Tiger, and you know that the Tiger gets penned by everything. But the Tiger at least has more HP, and Tiger is more combat effective with the gun than the Carro P.88 is. And if we take a look at the Carro P.88 and we take a look of this thing, you can see it's rather flat. It does have some angles. At the front, it's extremely flat. Then you have these angles where it's a bit, angled towards the front, but you can still go through. It's only 100mm. If we take a look at the armor viewer, you can see that the armor efficiency is exactly 100mm. At tier 7, you're going to have quite a lot of people that are going to be able to go right through you. The gun mantle, on the other hand, is rather thick though, but I think there's enough space to miss the gun mantlet and to aim for the turret. If you're a bit further away, it's going to be a lot more difficult to go through your turret armor, but the problem is going to be that your accuracy is just not holding up. So yeah, you just have to keep in mind that this tank is not meant to be a sniper, and they do not wish it to be one. And thus, it kind of, the armor, it kind of, it just counters itself a little bit in that aspect. Then, moving on, you can see that the Tiger 1 is actually faster than the Carro P.88, and I felt that the mobility aspect was going to be one of the main reasons for the Italian heavy tanks to be, very effective with medium tanks, and, being able to revert in the role of being quite fast and being able to switch around. The thing is, the 35 kilometers, you have the 40 kilometers on the Tiger 1 top speed, but the 35 kilometers on the Carro P.88, you'll actually reach it quite quickly because your max or your load at the moment is 45 tons. It's probably about 47 with the Top Gun that I have on. So you still have a better specific power to weight ratio, right? You have better horsepower to ton ratio right here. So you're going to be faster at gaining speed than the Tiger 1 would. But still, I'd say that it is a bit disappointing. Overall speaking, the concealment and spotting is not the most important. The Carro P 350 meters base view range with the stock turret, like the most tier 7 heavy tanks, especially with the Top Gun, as you would expect it to pick up a little bit of DPM, but it actually drop quite a bit of DPM for about 38 millimeters of penetration. And that's the question, is it worth 38 millimeters of penetration or not? So we're going to jump into 2 games. I'm going to show you guys what this tank is capable of when playing the stock gun and what it's capable of when playing the Top Gun. So we're going to go into a game, then we're going to have a verdict on what this tank is all about, and hopefully I'll be able to review the tier 8 vehicle in the next week. Okay, I have 2 games at the ready for you guys. One of them with the Top Gun, the other one with the stock gun. This gameplay, we're going to take a look at this vehicle with the stock gun, and this is one of the best matchups you can have against tier 6 vehicles and just a few tier 7s. You can see the Carro P.88 were out in force, and you will actually see quite a few in this gameplay clip. We're going to be engaging quite a few of them as well. This tank is very, very, very much a target for artillery. This is very important that you know that you're always going to be a main arty focus because of your 20 millimeters of armor at the back. The armor on top of your tank, on the turret as well, is very, very thin. I was not sure if I was going to show you guys this gameplay or another one where I was also using the stock gun, where I was playing on, I'm not even sure what the name of the map was again, but it's not important. But artillery hit me in that game. It was a tier 7 M12 artillery that hit me, and he did 700 damage, the full amount of HP, or the full amount of damage he can do when he pens you. And he actually managed to hit my turret on the top. And it's something that will be happening quite a few times. At least I can probably tell you guys that. So why am I talking about this stock gun? Why is the stock gun relevant in the Carro P.88? Well, the stock gun is relevant because of several factors. That it's basically better in every single aspect than the Top Gun except for penetration. Now 164 millimeters of pen is exactly what you'll be looking into at tier 6. That's what a tier 6 medium tank, a tier 6 heavy tank usually does run around with. Now, you'd be thinking that 164 millimeters, especially if you're going up against tier 8, tier 9, it kind of is a downer. Yes, that is kind of true. But you get you get 400 DPM more with this gun. Your accuracy is better. Your aim time is also better. And basically all of those factors combined make this gun still a valiant choice if you are thinking about, just running the stock gun. You will have to eventually unlock the Top Gun because the Top Gun will go further to the, it will reach the tier 8 vehicle, and you have to unlock the gun to be able to unlock the tier 8 vehicle. But to be fair, running around with this stock gun is still something that I'd say is pretty damn decent, because you have 6-second reload time instead of the 7.8. Your DPM is just better, your aim time is better, your accuracy is better, and you still have the APCR shells that have about 198 millimeters of pen if you need them. But if you're going up against tier 7s and tier 6s, you're going to be doing fine. Against tier 8s and 9s, you might be doing fine if you engage just, you know, if you know all the weak spots and you are very alert to all the tanks that you're going to be facing. But obviously the top gun is going to be the one gun that will just bring the pen. But the thing is, when you're getting a top gun, you're sacrificing a lot of DPM, and that's exactly where this kind of gun in my opinion, it's just better in that aspect, because I need the DPM, I need to be able to do the damage. Right there you can see we actually bounced the shot of our gun mantlet. The gun mantlet is rather thick with over 200 millimeters of armor. The rest of the turret though is rather thin. The parts right here, the cheeks that are angled, are actually 200 millimeters thick as well, so they're quite well protected, but to be fair, you have 8 degrees of gun depression. 8 degrees of gun depression is great for a tier 7 tank, but yeah, you need a bit more if you want to get over a ridgeline like that. This has been a bit of a stalemate, this game. It's been a bit awkward, and right there, the P.88 Biz actually puts one right into us. It probably was going right through our tracks at the front. That's something you have to get used to when you are playing this tank. It's really long. It's such a long tank, and it takes a bit of time to get used to playing a vehicle that is just as long as this is. Also, you're going to be an artillery magnet, and your mobility really gets decreased if you are stunned by artillery, and it's not a lot of fun when that happens. But to be fair, I kind of enjoy this tank. It is not like the Tiger 1. It doesn't have the DPM of the Tiger 1. It doesn't have the alpha damage of the Tiger 1, of the 88mm of the Tiger 1. That really hits hard. The 88mm of the Tiger 1 hits hard. But you can see the DPM right here with the stock gun. Pretty impressive. And if you're going up against the T-34-1, well, you're just going to be able to take him out quite quickly. And it is a 90mm gun, but it would have been cool to see this tank maybe also get the same amount of DPM, not the DPM, but the same amount of alpha damage that the Tiger 1 has. 280 would be fair, because then the DPM would go up, and I think the Top Gun wouldn't be as terrible as it is right now. But as you can see right here, we still managed to do 1,422 damage. Get 4 kills and get 1,000 assistance damage with this tank. So it's not completely terrible, especially if you're in tier 7. You can do quite a lot of damage, but you have to be very careful because your armor, even though it's 100 millimeters thick and it is angled, to be fair, you have to get lucky to bounce things at the front. But the turret can withstand quite a bit of damage if you're in the right spot. So it's always going to be the question of, are you going to be playing this tank in a hull down position somewhere? Artillery will be punishing you. That's going to be clear because your tank is a very big target. Look at the length of it. Because if arty overshoots you, it's going to hit your rear. It's going to hurt like hell. But I think it's a... Why not? The stock gun is actually quite a good choice. But the Top Gun also is quite an okay choice if you look at the penetration rate that you have. So we're going to take a look at the other gameplay I have, and which is very fittingly a tier 9 game, and we're going to jump over right now. Okay, you can see we're in a tier 9 match. We have a couple of tier 7s with us, a few tier 8s, but this is a lineup or a matchup that you do not want to be engaging in a tier 7, because to be fair, I think tier 7 to tier 9 is almost worse than tier 8 to tier 10, because you feel kind of helpless as a tier 7 tank in this matchup. But still, at least, you know, if you're playing against tier 9 medium tanks, well, they do not have the best kind of armor, so you can still pen them. Now we're running the Top Gun, and the Top Gun is basically worse in every aspect instead of pen, or except of pen. And the stock gun has 164 millimeters of pen, and this Top Gun has 202 millimeters of pen. And the alpha is exactly the same. The Accuracy is worse, the aim time is worse, the DPM is definitely worse, and you will actually feel it in the game. You can see that there are certain situations that if you were in a Tiger 1, we could have played this a bit differently. But still, let's take a look at this gameplay. We're going over to the medium line, to the 0 and 9 line, and we're helping the Object 430 and the Schwarzpanzer 58. The Object 430 is going to be a very important player to this game. You'll see what I mean. Watch the entire game and you will see exactly what I mean, because there are things that are going to be happening here. You can see our Schwarzpanzer 58, unlucky guy, he was just too aggressive, didn't check if any of us were coming in. I'm a heavy tank. The mobility on this thing, it feels decent, especially going forward. If you think about it, you have a pretty good acceleration with this vehicle. So you're not the slowest heavy tank out there. 35 kilometers per hour. I would love to see this tank going 40 kilometers per hour, because I think that giving that vehicle just a bit more would make it such more valuable vehicle for your team. It's going to make you just a bit more special and, give you a bit more punching ability. So right there we take a hit from the STA-1, but he takes one in return by probably artillery, because that really looked like it hurt. And it's a bit of an awkward engagement. There's a Type 61 at the top of the hill, a T-55A, a EBR, and a STA-1 versus a Stridswagen in the back, Object 430, and me. And you can see that our team has already lost quite a few tanks. We have lost 5 vehicles, 2 of them being tier 9 vehicles. But they've managed to actually push the enemy team all the way back on the 1-2 line, and they're engaging 2 Carro P.88s, our brothers down there. And it looks like they're holding the line quite well, but one of them just got smoked. So it's not the ideal start. The T-55A is moving up the mountain, and I thought that the Object 430 was AFK because he didn't fire, but he did wait until he had a shot on the 55A. So it's a bit awkward now, because I'm not entirely sure if I should push, if I should fall back, or if I just should hold the position right here. Because it looks like the 1-2 line is actually able to do something right there. We have taken out 3 vehicles, and being in this tank, knowing that I have decent mobility, I could still, start driving towards a different section and be there in time. There goes the STA-1. We bounce him. He probably shot at our turret, and nope, he actually bounced off our upper plate, which is angled. And now we have decided to actually move up the hill, because I've noticed that all 3 of the tanks are up there. There's no one on the left anymore, so they cannot really face us anymore. And there's the Type 61. The Type 61, this guy right here, very dangerous tank. We spot him. He gets a massive hit into his rear from the WZ-111. And look at that. That's exactly what I mean. The rate of fire just not good enough to take out the Type 61. And now we have a very awkward situation. Let me just pause it real fast. I know this is a very long video, but I just want to show you guys and bring the point over, underline it. That rate of fire is just that terrible that we were not able to take out this Type 61 when he was driving backwards, when he was driving, back into cover, and he even made a mistake. He drove up the hill, and that didn't allow us enough time to take him out of the game. He is at 14 HP. We have 202 millimeters of pen. We're going to be able to take him out. The STA-1 is at 221 HP. Now the thing is, if I would have been in a Tiger 1 right here, the 7 degrees of gun depression would have been enough. I would have been able to take him out in 2 shots, because the rate of fire is just that much better. And then I would have only probably taken 1 hit from the STA-1, and I could have taken him out very quickly. Now we're in a very awkward situation, because it's 2 versus 1. There are 2 medium tanks that have very high rate of fire. If I bounce any of them, I am dead. If I move out in front of him, I'm going to be dead. So I have to wait. I have to take my chances, and our team is now looking very, very much lost. This team you know, just lost basically all of the punching power that we had. I see the the Type 61 is moving backwards. He's aiming down because he saw that the 430 is moving up. And we take another hit from the STA-1 because the rate of fire on this thing is just not good enough. And there moves the T-55A. We are unfortunately not fast enough. Cannot get our turret and our gun on point, but this is important. We have to take out this T-55A. We know there's probably only him here at the back. We have the gun depression. We have 8 degrees of gun depression. We crest over the ridge. We take him out. I fire an APCR shell, the very first APCR shell I fired on this tank. And yeah, now we have control of the hill. They have artillery piece. There it is. Already hits us. We don't have an arty anymore. So if they start capping, we're going to be exposed very, very much so. So the object 430 now at this point, he is almost full HP, 1372. That's 76% of HP remaining. We have an STRV S1 over there and a WZ 111 1FT. So our main priority has to be to support these tank destroyers and not getting them killed. Now this tank has, I think, dispersion of 0.4 at 100 meters. So your accuracy is going to be very, very low. And you'll actually notice that when you're trying to engage targets at a very far range. Now the shell velocity of the APCR shell is 1100, which is, I think, on average of an APCR shell, but yeah, we're just going to be waiting here. I'm just checking the map real fast, and I'm just thinking about the next play that we should probably try out. I was probably on my phone. I have no idea, but I was just thinking right now, what can we do? So there's the WZ-111, there's the Stridswagen. The WZ-120 is coming up. The object 430 has done everything right so far, and he has waited there. He has waited for him to actually push him, and we have to be very careful because we know that we are low HP. There comes the EBR Hotchkiss. He's going to try to get past the WZ. We put a nice round into him, and the WZ finishes him off. So we're at 1314 damage. Although I've had the feeling I was firing constantly, it is only 1314. That's because the low alpha, the very bad DPM that you have on this vehicle, and the WZ has spotted the RU-251. That's a very dangerous tier 9 light tank. He has 5 kills, and he is going to be a major player in this game. As you can see, he's already has had a huge impact on this game, and he had an impact on our team. He took out 5 of us, and we see the Chiri. I'll put one into the Chiri. I'm kind of worried about artillery, but the Chiri actually moves back, and he bounces one off the object 430. That is quite interesting because the object 430 has, I think, about 230 millimeters of pen with its standard AP rounds. So yeah, and the Chiri, I don't know, it's about 70 millimeters of armor. So yeah, he could have actually fired anywhere and overmatched the armor, but it's not important. We know that there are 2 tanks next to us. We know the RU-251 is somewhere at the corner. We don't know where the SU-130PM is. We don't know where the artillery is. So what can they do to, you know, get us out of this shell? Well, they can start excuse me. They can start capping. Capping would obviously be an option. They could start flanking around with the RU-251, or they could just try to push us out of this position. That would be the dumbest thing. So they started capping, which is very smart right there. We spot a WZ-120. We spot the WZ. I just didn't check the minimap. There he is. He's trying to move around and get to the STRV. He's unlucky that I spotted him. We have 8 degrees of gun depression right here. We put 1 into him. Check the DPM. Look at that. Look at it. Look how we're trying to find the target. We put another 1 into him. Very lucky that we actually penned that because it was a very weird angle. And then we have a high explosive shell loaded, but the WZ-120 has so much frontal armor that we are not able to take him out. So at this point, we don't know if it's the SU-130PM or the RU-251 capping, but my guess was on the SU-130PM. You can see the object 430 right now is, he's just bullying the Chiri. takes him out, and we have turned this game completely around from being, down by 4 tanks. We are now leading by 1 tank. You can see the SU-130 PM is right there. The WZ spots him. And that's very important that we reset the cap. 2,316 damage done. 555 assistance damage. And the WZ 111 moves into it. But I think he's going to be taken out by the RU-251. This RU-251 must be sitting somewhere in the corner still sniping at us. And now it's basically a very important thing that we get this SU-130 PM off the cap. Now this is very important. This is exactly where things kind of go wrong. This is why I told you guys, keep the object 430 in mind. Instead of coming back to base, he's chasing artillery. He's seriously chasing artillery with almost full HP. We have us and the STRV S1 on 129 HP. I'm trying to engage this SU-130 PM. I get spotted by the RU-251. That's exactly where he is. He is still at 500 HP. And this object 430 now notices, oh shit, they're outcapping us. And I get so upset because this is exactly the thing that I hate most about players in World of Tanks. That they start getting their narrow vision on a target that's easy to kill, and they just completely forget the objective of the game, which is winning the match, and they're throwing it completely under the bus because they're so focused on getting glory and points for themselves. And what was just missing was him firing at the artillery on the move right here, because I knew he wanted to do it, but he didn't because he needs to take out the SU-130 PM. Obviously we lose. I say some very unflattering words towards him, but I absolutely think that it is justified, because that was such a huge throw. That was such a throw. I've never seen, or I don't see that very often, but it just annoys me to no end because this was such an easy win. He could have just come back immediately, cleared the cap with us. The STRV S1, obviously, he's sitting back there, but he's a tank destroyer. He cannot move into there and, take him out and, equip the siege mode at the same time. He would have gotten taken out by the RU-251. But this object 430, he was just wasting his time in the back looking for artillery. And that's exactly the problem that you have with World of Tanks players that are just so narrow-minded and going for their own personal benefit and not looking out for the team. And it's just so annoying because we called him out. The STRV told him to defend the base. We pinged everything, and he just moved down there. He was the top tier. He was able to, get the artillery, and it just doesn't matter. I mean, in the end, we lose this match. It was an easy match to win. I know it's just a game, but it's so annoying because these things happen so often, and you just have the feeling that you have to baby these World of Tanks players because they just don't understand that they have to fall back. And it was just it triggered me so hard that he was actually moving all the way down chasing artillery when this was such an easy game for him to win. He could have shot down the RU-251. The RU-251 has a very hard time penning object 430 frontally, even with heat shells, but turned out that that was not in his interest. Very sad kind of ending to this very good game because we held out very well over there. We have managed to take the hill. Although there were several tier 9s fighting for the hill, we worked very well with the object 430. We supported him. We supported the tank destroyers. We basically maxed out everything we could on this tank, made the best out of the very bad DPM, and still we lose because one mistake too much, and he was just running around and he just cost the entire team. Okay, now I'm gonna finish this rant, because it's not important. This is a review for the Carro P.88. This tank is decent. I like playing it, but it has a lot of downsides. It's not like the Tiger 1 that just, gets penned by everyone, but has the crazy DPM advantage to make up for it. This tank just doesn't have the DPM. The armor will hold up from time to time, but most of the time you will not be bouncing anything unless you're hull down against tier 7 vehicles. The mobility is just not great enough to really warrant it to be fast enough. It's just a mediocre, like on the lower spectrum of a mediocre tank. It's not even a good mediocre, it's just a bad, it's kind of a bad mediocre. It's not bad per se, because I think in general speaking all of the things make it a okay vehicle, but it's just not flashy in any kind of direction, and it rather points a bit downwards. So the tier 8 is definitely a better version, I think. The tier 7 is just not that special, and I understand why people didn't really play it as much on the test server. It's not that special, and it's just a gateway to the next vehicle. So don't even spend too much on this vehicle, because you have the 8 degrees of gun depression. Yes, you do not have the best gun for dealing with targets. You don't have the best DPM. You don't have the craziest mobility. You're just basically in there for, a vehicle, to have a vehicle in tier 7. I think they could have made this tank a bit better by either giving it more speed, by maybe adding the alpha damage that the Tiger 1 has. I think then this tank would have been at least decent enough to be like fun to play. I think this was fun, definitely. The stock gun was fun until I had to face tanks that are just higher tier. Then it was no longer fun, because obviously you don't have the pen. But yeah, I mean, not a tank that you will remember very fondly of, I think. So yeah, hope you liked this review. If I had to give it like a points, probably be a 4 out of 10 if you think about it. But we're just gonna move on here, and I'll see you guys on the next video.